Hey, welcome back to this little series that I'm doing, basically just about the photo. I find photos that I like, whether I've taken them or a friend or a student, and I stop and I appreciate the photo and I love the photo and I look at it and enjoy it, and then I start to break it down and I say, what is it about this photograph that I like? And I look at the different creative elements that make this photo strong. And so I have three of my aquarium photos here, and I spent a little bit of time photographing these whales, and I've, I've got three fairly different photos here, although they have some things in common, and I thought that I kind of like them as a series, and I thought I'd talk about each photo individually. So one of the things that I really like about these photos, the first two in particular, is the interesting light. So on the one hand, you can see that I've got a bit of a, well, not a bit, I've got a silhouette going on here. So the whale is basically correctly exposed. It's kind of was the brightest thing in the photo. So there's a good chance that when you first looked at the photo, it's what your eye was naturally drawn to. And then because the whale is so bright, the rest of the photo naturally ended up as a silhouette. So the people, you can see the people in the foreground looking at the whale, and they are silhouettes. Another thing that I like about the light here is you can see kind of these diagonal lines kind of swooshing through the water, and that's just essentially how the sunlight was filtering in through the water. And it didn't look like this at other times of day, but at this particular time that I was there, this is how the sunlight was looking. And it's not exactly how it looked to my eye, but when I took the picture and looked at it, at first I was a little disappointed. I thought like, ugh, I don't exactly have, the clear sort of shot that I want here. But the thing is, when I'm out there taking photos and the situation is not exactly ideal, I just look at what I'm given and I say, you know what? This is the circumstance that I'm in. This is the scenario I've been given, and I just got to deal with it. And so I kind of thought, is it really a big deal? And then I thought, like, you know what? I actually think it's kind of cool. And I think that these diagonal lines of light filtering in through the water actually give the photo a bit of energy. And they just, to me, they add kind of an interesting element to the photo. So I find that diagonal lines in an image, whether it's a photograph or a painting or drawing or whatever, kind of adds some energy to the photo. I mean, you can think about lightning, which is often portrayed as sort of like a diagonal, zigzagging kind of line through a picture. And so I thought that actually added something to the photo. So we've got the silhouetted foreground, we've got the diagonal light rays kind of filtering through the water, and we've got the bright whale. Now the whale's basically got its back to us. It's kind of swimming away from us, and in this, I think one thing that I liked about this shot is that you don't see the entire whale. There's a sense of mystery to it. You don't exactly know what this creature is. I mean, I suppose if you're a marine biologist or something, you may be able to recognize the tail and know exactly what this creature is. But I love it when a photo has a sense of mystery to it. And I find that the fact that we don't see the whole whale, we just kind of see its tail leaving us. We don't even see the people, and we don't really get a proper context of where we are. I mean, I think you could piece together that we're at an aquarium. But so anyways, there's a few of those things that kind of work together to make this photo kind of interesting. And then this photo here, again, we have those similar diagonal lines. It's just the way that the sunlight is filtering through the water. But now we actually get to see the whale a little bit better. And I love that it's actually blowing out some air And I had noticed that the whales would do this, although it's very infrequent. And so I really had to wait quite a while to be able to get a shot like this. You can tell that the light was kind of tricky. There's a lot of light on top of the whale, and then a bunch of it kind of falls into shadow. And at this point, I knew that that's the way it was going to be. When I first took some photos, I found that parts of the whale were really, really bright and overexposed. And I realized very quickly it's because the sunlight is coming in and it's hitting the top of the whale, and these whales are actually white or very light colored. And so what was happening was that the light was reflecting and it was really, really bright and overexposed. And then the rest of the whale looked okay. And so I just adjusted my settings so that the bright parts of the whale would be properly exposed. And that kind of meant that the rest of the whale would fall into shadow a little bit. And I thought, you know what? I don't mind. I was just happy to kind of play with the light and the gesture of the whale and whatnot. And so that's kind of what I like about this photo is the gesture, the movement and curve of the whale's body, the fact that air is being blown out, the diagonal lines of the light filtering through. Those things I thought were kind of all working together to make this an interesting photo. And then this one here, I love the split light, the way the whale is swimming on its side, and then the top of the whale is lit, and then you get this line just literally splitting right down the whale, and so one half of it is bright and the other half of it is in shadow. So it really, that's what most of these photos were about in the series, was just kind of playing with the light. We got the split light here, and we had basically a technique that's referred to as exposing for the highlights. You get the really bright parts of your photo exposed properly, and then watch the rest of it fall into darkness. And we had some interesting gesture there, and then the sense of mystery and the silhouette and whatnot going on with this photo. So I love to look at photos individually, but sometimes photos really work together as a set. And I particularly love sets of three. I think if I went back and looked a little further, I don't know if this would necessarily be the final set of three photos I would go with, but they were definitely three interesting ones to look at here.